Hey, Book Dragons! It is your girl Lindsay here with The Spine Bookshop with another episode of The Spine Bookcast Chronicles of a Bookshop. And today's guest is Nina Mancuso, author of Everybody Cheats, and she is one of the authors in our bookshop. How are you doing today, Nina?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. How
Good.
are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it.
Okay.
How did you get into reading?
Ooh, that was actually, you know what? That was when I was a kid. I really liked a lot of Southern literature books. I just remember I just kept picking them up on accident.
Like what kind of books?
One was called Summer of My German Soldier.
I know that book.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then The Secret Life of Bees, but that was when I was a little older. Walk Two Moons was another one. I was a big fan.
Love both of those.
Still make me cry, so I try not to read it any recent times. And I think even Number the Stars was another one.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. And then I got really into the Wrinkle in Time series.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I accidentally read the fifth book first.
Oh, really?
Well, I read the first one, and then I accidentally came across the fifth one. I'm like, wow, these characters sound really familiar. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
What do you think of the movie?
Glossed over the whole series. I never saw the movie.
Really? It's very good.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It is excellent. I think they did a great job, but there's definitely a group of people that think they did a horrible job.
Oh,
so,
okay.
you know.
That's the one with Oprah, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was a great rendition.
Interesting. I love the Secret Life of Bees movie.
Oh, God, I love that movie so much.
Oh, they did such a great job. And I remember watching it in college, and I was like really scared because that was one of my favorite books. And I was like,
me too.
God, and I knew what everything was going to happen because that was one of the few movies where they actually really did true to the book. At the time. Now I more like that. Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I love that book. Oh, God, that book is beautiful. I like good Southern stories. Where the Crawdads Sing is a good one.
Oh, see, now that was a movie I saw. I hadn't read the book yet.
Oh, my God.
But the movie was good.
The book is beautiful.
Oh. Okay, so it's probably better than the movie then.
You know what? Anne and I on our last episode, Anne and I talked about this, how we'd both read the book and we heard they were doing the movie, both of us, oh God, because, normally sometimes when they do a book to movie adaptation, it's awful. Mm-hmm. And so I went with my friend Jess and we went in there and I remember thinking, oh, there's no way they're going to do this right because it's such a beautiful story. Mm-hmm. And if they change anything about it, it would have just been awful. Like it just, but they didn't. They did such a good job. And I think it was a beautiful adaptation, which doesn't happen very often.
No, it does not.
But yeah, it's, oh God. And the actress was superb.
Yeah. No, that was
perfect.
That was a great movie. So then, now I'm going to have to read the book. I have it at home. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, it's wonderful. And it's beautifully written. Nice. And have you ever read anything by Sarah Addison Allen?
No.
Okay. If you like Southern books, she is my favorite author of all time ever.
Okay.
I even have some of her books in here. The first book I ever read by her was Garden Spells. And then I read The Sugar Queen. And then I read The Peach Keeper. Oh. And then I read The Girl Who Chased the Moon. And then First Frost. And then Lost Lake. And then the one that she just came out with, something Birds. And I can't remember what the title is. But she's one of those authors that it does not matter what the book is about. The minute I know she's releasing one, I pre-order it because I know I'm going to love it. I don't even care what the title is. If she's written it, I'm going to love it. Like, you would love her stuff.
That's me and Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he did that Kickstarter, I will have to say I was one of the many who immediately signed up for that because I was like, I don't need to know what it's about. I know it's going to be great.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. Right? There are definitely certain authors. Yeah. Carrie Jones is a good friend of mine now. Mm-hmm. And it started out with me messaging her about something. And I have never been so floored that someone responded.
Yeah.
And we've now become very good friends.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. And it's such a privilege. I love authors. I love when authors do that.
Yeah.
When they take the time out. Mm-hmm. When somebody writes them, damn well knowing that 95% of the time they're not going to answer. And then they do, and nobody's more floored than me.
Yeah. I was so ecstatic because I don't know. Do you know who Gigi Levangie Grazer is? She does like a bunch of chick lit books. She used to do them. Not
Sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to it.
She was one of my favorite chick lit authors, and I actually did a review of her book Maneater, and I think they made it many years ago. They made it into like a Lifetime series.
Sure.
And she was I was like, oh my gosh, is this like my like I'm like I've said all of these things, and actually I wrote a review on it, and her husband saw it and then showed her, and then she was like, hey, thank you so much, and I was like, get out. And so that was very excited too. I was like, I can't believe she said something to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or that she even read that, because I did not expect her to read my review of that at all.
Oh, that's
but
so
it's
cool.
a great book. It's funny.
I love that. Yeah. I love that readers, it's this really symbiotic relationship, I think, with readers and writers that they can't exist without each other.
Right.
And I really love it when readers have the balls to write their favorite author and be like, I really love your book and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we totally geek out. And then lo and behold, the writer will write us back. Mm-hmm. And no one is more shocked.
I know.
And it's just the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I was very excited.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
Actually, she moved to Franklin, I think, or Tennessee somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That's so weird. Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite kids book that you ever read?
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. You know what? And as we were talking, I had a flashback to one of my favorite kids books was The Fire Cat.
Okay, what's that? I've not heard that one.
It was, I think it was either from the 60s or the 70s, but it was about a cat that gets caught in a tree, and then they have to get a fireman to save him, and so he ends up working at the firehouse with all the firemen.
Oh my God, how cute is that?
It is so cute, and I found it at an estate sale, so I snatched it up really fast.
See, I love that kind of stuff when you find something random. I love that kind of stuff. It
gave me flat. I totally forgot about that book till I saw it at the estate sale. I'm like, oh, I love this book, and then
That's so funny.
Yeah, that one.
I was talking with somebody the other day about how I went through and I read this series when I was like 12 or 13. I thought it was so mature. And it was like The Boy I Love by Linda Lewis. It was a whole series about this relationship between this girl and this boy going from like elementary school all the way up to like getting married and, you know, having kids and all. And I was nostalgic as hell about it, right? Mm-hmm. And I found every single one and bought every single one. And they are janky and old and falling apart. I don't care. I'm going to reread every single one of them and just relive my childhood. And I guarantee you they're not going to hold up. No. I'm going to love them anyway.
That's like my Enchanted Forest Chronicles. That's another great series.
Yeah.
That's a kid's series.
I feel like I've heard of that.
Yeah, I may have, it's called like Talking to Dragons or Dealing.
You gave me the first book.
I think I did. I was going to say, I may have given
you
the book. Yeah. I think the first was Dealing with Dragons. That's a great series. Oh my gosh. Great series. And I think that's a kid's series, I want to say.
Yeah. I love when writers trust kids to handle things and then write a story accordingly. Like Judy Blume used to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, semi-adult subjects, but they trust children to handle it and write it in such a way that they can. And I love it when writers do that.
Yeah.
Don't dumb it down for me.
No. Yeah, and kids, they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Oh my gosh, right? I always
like Walk Two Moons. That's a traumatic book.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great book, but oh my God.
Forever. It's Forever the one. Is it Judy Blume that wrote about the girl who has sex for the first time and she ends up.
I'm talking about the Go Ask Alice one, right?
That's the one.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one.
Write that one, I think.
Oh. Yeah, and Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And just, I love those books. And I remember reading those when I was little and just, okay, so this is normal. Got it, you know.
I did also really like the Nina Ballerina. Also, because it had my name in it. But also, she was kind of like me where she'd be really pouty all the time when she sucked at something. She'd be like, oh, I'm bad at dancing. Now I'm pouty. And I'm like, oh, this is
I remember those. Yeah. I was thinking today, it was really funny because I started reading. So Anne and I co-challenged each other. I challenged her to read the Court of Thorns and Roses series. And so she told me that I have to read the Fourth Wing series because I got the first two books. So I started Fourth Wing last night. and then she's going to get Court of Thorns and Roses started. And we were talking about that on our last podcast. And I was talking to somebody about how it's categorized as young adult, but it's really not young adult because it has smut in it. No. And how there's this whole group of people, probably my age in their 40s and 30s, that are into this big smut reading thing, right? And then you've got that app Quinn, which is audio erotica, and then you just get, and Book Talk is really big into book smut. And I'm not at all surprised by any of this because I read Flowers in the Attic when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're a whole generation that read an entirely V.C. Andrews, all of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny that our generation read things like V.C. Andrews and Judy Blume and read about all that. But now we have all this book banning going on. Oh, we can't read about periods and what? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
sad. Absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
What have you had any of those nostalgia moments where you've gone back and grabbed kids' books that you read when you were little?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I love kids' books. Absolutely love them. The Nina Nina Ballerina and the Fire Cat, of course, those were all recent. I also really liked the Mr. Men and Mrs. Little books.
Yes.
And I found those at an estate sale, so I grabbed
I'm
80
so
of
jealous.
Those. And then
I love the Little Miss and Little Mr. books.
Yeah, those are so cute.
Oh my gosh,
actually,
right?
What's crazy is I used to have Little Miss Magic, and I actually, it somehow came with me throughout my whole life. I found it in a drawer in my house maybe 2 years ago. And I was like, I don't know how this book stayed with me since I was a baby. It literally came with me to college. It came with me to Chicago.
That's so
it came with me to
funny.
Tennessee. I was like, wow, this thing is just sticking with me. It's missing a lot of pages. It's a little battered and beat up, but it's very cute. And I framed it.
I think it's so funny how some books that we read when we're so little and really don't have the ability to retain a lot of memories yet. Mm-hmm. But there's some books that hit us straight in the face. And it's one of those, I am 90 and you will pry this from my cold dead hands.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And my niece Maya, Jessica's daughter, is the same way. She has some books that are juvenile, but you will pry them from her cold dead hands.
Yep.
For as long as she lives. Doesn't matter.
I understand. I'm the same way with it. I have actually a whole bookcase where I have all my rare and treasured books, which is where my Fire Cat and Little Miss and Mr. books are. Yeah, because it's hard. I love reading kids' books. I read kids' books all the time. I remember actually when I was back in my 20s, my friend used to make fun of me about that because she was like, well, how come you never read any adult books? I'm like, because I like kids' books. They're fun.
Adult books are boring and horrible.
Yeah, what's wrong with kids' books? I don't see the problem with it. But yeah, I have so many too. I have a whole kids' book shelf.
I literally have 4 or 5 bookshelves up in my upstairs house in my office. And if a book makes it upstairs, I'm going to die with those books on that shelf because those are my save books. And the ones I don't like, I do other things with. But those are the ones that have changed me on a DNA level, and you will never pry them out of my house, Mm-hmm. So I get that. I get that having that bookshelf that's the sacred bookshelf.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I think, but yeah, kids, see, that's the problem is I read so many kids' books. It's I'm almost trying to remember which one was my ultimate favorite. I'm sure something with dragons. If I were a pet.
I love that.
Yeah. I will say, though, I did try reading one, a young adult book called Star-Crossed. Have you ever heard of that one?
I don't think so.
Although there's a lot of star-crossed out there, and I can't.
Sure. Who's it by?
I was gonna say I couldn't remember who it was by because I thought I read the synopsis. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
And it just was not.
Yeah, I didn't know what DNF meant until I got onto Book Talk, and then I was like, I've been doing that for years.
I know. And again, there's so many people who are like, I have to finish it. And I'm like, I used to be that way until maybe 10, 12 years ago, where I'm like, I don't want to keep wasting my time.
No.
If it's not good, I'm just going to tap out and go to something I enjoy.
Exactly. I give it about 2 or 3 chapters.
Yeah. And
if it doesn't catch me within 2 or 3 chapters, forget it.
Yeah.
you get that much.
Yeah.
And I hate DNFing stuff, and especially if it's by an author, the previous stuff I've absolutely loved.
Oh, that's the worst.
And then you pick up and you're just like, who wrote this?
Yeah, I understand how that goes.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah, luckily, I haven't. Well, I did have that experience with the Nicholas Sparks. I'm not a big Nicholas Sparks gal in general.
It's hit or miss for me.
It really is. But I tried reading Safe Haven.
No.
And I couldn't. I think I got 90 pages in.
Really?
And I was still like, this is terrible. Like, I don't know why I can't. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch the movie. And I just went to the movie. And the movie was way better.
I love Nicholas Sparks. Don't get me wrong. However, it's the same tropey formula for every single book. And I get bored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with like Dean Koontz did that. I really liked Dean Koontz for a really long time. And then it got a little tropey. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this is the same stupid story.
Yeah, just different characters. I think I read maybe like 3 of his books.
I will say that he wrote one that I wish that I could find it, and I can't find it. It's called Strangers. And it's a book where you have all these different people, completely different parts of the country, do not know each other, but are all starting to have these same symptoms. And they all start having these dreams about this space. It's very something of the third kind. What is that Richard Dreyfuss movie with the aliens? Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It reminds me very much of that.
Okay.
And and they all end up coming together because of this event that they didn't remember, but now they do. And and I really enjoyed that book so much. I gotta find that again.
I will say I just had a consult the other day, and this lady, she got a book in her hands, and then we started talking about reading, of course,
as one does
between our testing.
Sure.
And she actually said something hilarious, kind of what you were saying. She was teaching Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And one of her students' parents didn't want her to read it. So she gave the daughter A Separate Peace by John Knowles, which is actually one of my favorite books.
That in its own right is really awful.
And she was like, and then the daughter was like, no, I want to read the other one. She was like, so that's how she was like, I actually really like that book too. And it's funny because it's really hard to find people that like that book. Most people.
Because it's hard to read.
It is, but it has one of my favorite last lines, I think.
What's the line?
Book. It was... Now, it's like a whole paragraph, so I might butcher it, but It was like, all of them, all except Phineas, constructed at infinite cost to themselves these magno lines they thought they saw across the frontier, if there ever was there at all, or something. I got the first half down, then I just ate it on the last half, but it was great. It was basically about how everybody hated Phineas for him just being himself. And it was really because he was just, he loved himself and everybody hated him for it, essentially. Yeah. And they treated him like trash. And that at the end of the book, the guy kind of has that realization like, oh, we were mean to this guy for literally just because of our own insecurities. Yeah. And that I just thought was tremendous. And I'm really sad I can't remember the actual last 5 words of it.
Okay, and what's the book called?
A Separate Peace.
A Separate Peace. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's the last paragraph?
The absolutely last paragraph.
See, now I'm going to have to look it up because now I want to read what it says.
Yeah, you should. It's great.
Last paragraph of A Separate Peace. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what's the best first sentence of a book that you've ever heard?
Ooh. Man, that's going to be a tough one. I definitely know it was the Mistborn novel.
I know you've talked about that.
Yeah.
You've talked about that. Okay, here we go. What does the last line of A Separate Peace mean? We are getting this from enotes.com. Okay. All of them except Phineas constructed an infinite cost to themselves these Maginot lines against this enemy they thought they saw across the frontier, this enemy who never attacked that way, if he ever attacked at all, if he was indeed the enemy.
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry. Still one of my favorites. Oh, man.
No, I love that line. I have several lines. Like in The Martian, the very first line out of the book is, "I'm so fucked."
Oh, really?
And any book that starts out that way, my brain immediately wants to go, "What did you do?"
That's funny.
And then I like from The Tempest from Shakespeare,
Mm-hmm.
"Hell is empty and all the devils are here."
Mm.
Like, it's just so ominous.
Man, I can't remember. I actually wrote a paper about it, but not for me. It was for somebody else like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one that well.
Well, it's because they only teach Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, that one.
And Othello,
Mhm.
Macbeth, The Tempest, there's so many better plays than Romeo and Juliet. Like,
I actually say I like The Tempest. That was actually one of the few Shakespeare ones I really liked.
yeah.
Because I don't dislike Shakespeare. I just didn't really care for him as much. Like I did. There was another one I think he did called Cymbeline. That was also pretty decent.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really like. Oh, and Midsummer Night's Dream is obviously.
The problem with Shakespeare is that a lot of teachers don't understand the concept of how to teach it.
I think that is, yeah.
Because in I had trouble with it until my English teacher was like, think of it like music.
Mm.
And if you know how to read sheet music, you should be able to learn how to read Shakespeare, because all those little like abbreviations and pauses and grammatical inserts are the rhythm with which you're supposed to read that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to just read it straight. That's not how it's written.
Yeah.
And nobody teaches you that. So if you figure out that there's a rhythm
mm-hmm.
and it teaches you how to read it, it makes it so much more understandable.
Yeah.
I still like reading Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's been a while. Actually, I made it all throughout college without taking a Shakespeare class.
But I took as absolutely many Shakespeare courses as I could possibly take.
But yeah, I did a lot of medieval studies. And Chaucer, he's my favorite.
I hate Chaucer.
Oh, yeah, so there we go.
Oh, God.
But he is the thing I like about him is how simple he is. It's just you have to either get a translation or like learn how to read Middle English, because that's the big barrier.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's all in Middle English, and so it's like.
Well, I've been to Canterbury. I've read the Canterbury Tales. Oh. Like, I've been to Canterbury Church, and and I've read them all. And I took my Chaucer course, but it was just.
Well, the Canterbury Tales is a little much. I mean, I like it, but I like.
We read the Miller Tale.
Oh, you read the Miller's Tale? Yeah.
Yes, I had a professor who taught it, and he was talking about. He goes, "The one we're not going to read is the Miller Tale, because it is filthy and offensive and disgusting and absolutely. And the next day, he does a pop quiz. Mm-hmm. Questions us on the Miller's Tale.
Oh,
all of us made an A. I'm like, yeah.
He knew. Smart
you
guy.
know. Like that, reverse psychology will get you every time.
Yeah. I will say I can't get onto The Catcher in the Rye. That was one that was hard.
I love that book so much.
Oh, but see that's where I'm flipped, because everyone's like, I hate Separate Peace, but I love Catcher in the Rye, and I'm like, yeah, the opposite. I like Separate Peace.
I liked Holden Caulfield. I liked that he just was like, yeah, all of you guys are fake ass bitches, and I can't stand any of you.
Well, that I agree with. I did like that,
and I really liked that you had this character that was like, yeah, no, this is stupid.
What was funny, though, what made me think about that was how your teacher used that reverse psychology on you, and they did a South Park episode about the Catcher in the
Yes, I loved that so much.
And they all come in, they're like, I don't find any dirty parts in here, and they're all mad about it, and then they write their own tale. I thought that's what made me think about that.
Whenever South Park has done some kind of nod to literature, I have giggled my face off.
Yeah, that was a great episode. That was really funny.
Oh my gosh. And I love when television does that.
Yeah.
And that if you've read the book, you're going to catch the really quick joke. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't, you're going to be, nobody else will be laughing, but there'll be the one person that's laughing, and everybody else is sitting around going, what are you laughing about? You just had to read the book.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that about books, is that you can have this little inside joke that you just had to have read the book,
Yeah.
But then it drives me crazy too, because they'll do a book that's fantastic. Like, I'm going to use Harold and the Purple Crown because I just saw the movie preview.
What? I didn't know they were making a movie.
Oh, yeah, which I heard. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. It'd be a little kid with his little crown. No, nope, no. They're taking a grown-ass adult who's going to draw all this crazy, and they've made it into an action movie. And
What?
I am screaming at the TV, no.
How do you even...
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I challenge you.
Like, that doesn't
Look
make
up
sense.
the trailer for Harold and the Purple Crayon. And if you've read the book and you're not mad,
Yeah.
then you didn't enjoy that book.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find the connect of how they even did that.
They took a title and a purple crown. That's what they did. That's it. Yeah, it makes me, because I loved that book so much.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, why are you so mad? I'm like, because that's not the book. That I don't even know what they're doing.
Like, what are they doing there? Like, it's supposed to be, isn't he like 4?
Yes.
3, and he's just walking around coloring them?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is not what and Adam just was like, well, I guess we're not going to be watching that. No, we are not.
We're not. Yeah.
Absolutely not. No.
I'm going to have to look that up when I get home.
Yeah. Oh my God. It made me like, I was sitting here watching it the first time and it took me a minute to go, what? Oh my God. What? Why would you do that?
Although now I'm thinking, you know what? I did see a movie where they kind of didn't even follow the book at all.
What book? What movie?
Under the Tuscan Sun.
Oh God.
The movie, I did not like the book at all, but then I was like, this movie is pretty good. But
the book was great.
Oh, okay.
The movie was great. But if you try to compare the two, you're going to be mad at one of them because
totally
it's totally different. Yeah.
Different stories. Yeah. Like I think I remember the book was about, wasn't it like a husband and wife? They go over there and they buy a house and they're trying to like build it.
Something like that. I can't remember.
And then the movie was totally different.
Yeah.
It's like
they did that with Along Came a Spider, which is a James Patterson book.
Oh.
With Alex Cross. And I was talking to Dan about this a while back where we were both talking about how we'd both read the book, but it had been a really long time. And so when the movie came out, like he just watched it a while ago. I saw it years ago when it first came out. And I kept having to ask my mom, is this a good movie? I can't tell if this is a good movie because this is not what happened in the book. Like they changed like full key deep like plot lines.
Wow. Yeah.
Like major plot lines that it was just, I can't tell if this is good.
Yeah, I think that was the one instance where, but because I was a single lady, so I really actually enjoyed the movie where I didn't really care too much for the book, but like it was interesting to see how different it was. Like I wouldn't have been able to even tell that they just took the title.
Yeah, it drives me crazy when they do that.
Yeah.
But then there are other movies where I can totally see why they make the choices that they make. Like, and I said this the other day, Ready Player One.
Never seen it.
Okay, if you read the book, which it's very good, but then you watch the movie, there are full scenes that are completely different. And I totally get why, because nobody wants to watch a movie where someone plays a video game for 3 hours.
Oh, that's fair.
And so the scenes where he has to like complete these 3 tasks, which are video games, they've tweaked them so that he's still completing tasks and they're still in the video game realm, but you're not sitting there watching someone play video games for 3 hours. Because it would,
Well, there is a market for that. Yeah, that would be very boring.
Yes, it would be a boring movie. And so what they did was much more interesting as a visual. So I like, there's sometimes where they do that and I'm just like, okay, I can see why you made that creative decision. But for the most part, if you're going to do the book, do the flipping book.
Yeah.
What's a book now that you've read as an adult that you really, really found that you loved that you weren't expecting to love?
Well, this is very dry, so I would never recommend this to most
I'm not going to
people.
be surprised by anything you say at this point. Let's have it.
It was called, I think it was called Cecilia a Slave, which was about, it was like a nonfiction book about a woman who had to go to trial over Missouri about killing, I think it was maybe The Plantation Owner or something.
Okay.
Like that. But it's super dry, super boring. But for some reason I was into it, and I had to know like the whole case. And even though I would never read anything like that, so that's like the one and only one I think that ever did that. And then another one, actually I had to do it twice because the first time I hated it. I got half into it. It's called Light in August by William Faulkner.
That one's a heavy, dry read.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why I torture myself sometimes, because
I like Faulkner, but you got to definitely have the right mind for Faulkner.
You really do, because the whole
Same way with Hemingway. Great writer, but you got to be in the right frame of mind to read their stuff.
That lack of punctuation just really gets me sometimes, because I'm like, now I got to reread 2 whole pages all over again. Because for some reason we didn't know what a comma or a period was. Like, you know. But it was, but like the first time I tried reading it, I got about halfway through and I got really annoyed because I thought it would be more about the woman and the guy who sees Civil War ghosts. And turns out they get no airtime in that book, and it's all about Joe Christmas. And I'm not upset about Joe Christmas. I was just lured in by the guy who saw Civil War. I think he was the Reverend.
Yeah.
Sees Civil War ghosts. And I'm like, man, see, like that sounds so cool. He gets like maybe 10 minutes tops.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was, what was another one I recently just read? It was, see, the problem is I've had to do so much medical terminology and anatomy and physiology.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's not fun.
That's how it was with my master's degree. I refused to read another educational textbooky kind of thing. I'm done. I want to read crap for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Let's see. I actually, one was actually by one of your authors here.
Oh, Lord.
It was the Alice in Wonderland one.
Oh yeah, Madness in Wonderland by Tabitha Bolden.
Yes, because I don't really care for Alice in Wonderland, and that was a great book.
Really?
Yeah, because I like Alice in Wonderland in terms of just in general, but I really like the spin that she did on it. I thought it was super interesting.
Oh, me too.
The Mad Hatter was how I would like the Mad Hatter to be, so that was also really cool. Just the whole like the airships and the steampunk.
The fact that she brought Frankenstein into
it
was just. She told me that, and I said, "Wait, what?" Mm-hmm. Like there's no world in which those two things are going to mesh together, and yet.
Yeah,
I love that,
and that's just one of those things I would literally just never read, because I'm not usually into like the fan fiction type of thing.
Sure,
but I trusted your opinion because you gave me the Traveler.
Also, so we've got the second one. You need to watch her.
I picked that up from her at that event we had.
Oh yeah, okay.
And of course
I haven't read it yet, so it's on my list.
House of Mirrors is the one you have to read.
Oh yeah, I want to really
changed my entire life.
Oh, I'm sure.
I told her that actually. I was like,
Did you?
This book changed my life.
See, I feel like that about The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. See, I went into that
but I hadn't read
thinking I'm not going to like this book because it right out of the gate, it's heavy. And I'm just, I remember thinking, I don't think that I'm going to like this book, but everybody keeps saying it's so great, but I'm going to try and read it, but I don't think I'm going to like it. And I read that thing in like one night.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was, I have never read anything like that in my entire life. Yeah. And I remember thinking when I was getting toward the end, I was like, if this doesn't end the way I think it should, I'm going to be so disappointed. Because it was working towards a finale that you expected it to be truthful. Mm-hmm. And if it went the happy, sunshiny way, I was going to be pissed. Oh. Because that's not what that book is about. Right. That book is about realizing that every decision you make is going to have a good side and a downside. Mm-hmm. And if you just, fall into it without really making an active choice, you're still not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And so when it ended, I was like, that was the right ending. That was perfect. And it is now one of my absolute favorite books. I absolutely adore that book. I've read it twice now.
See, now I have to pull up my Goodreads really quick because I know I'm forgetting one that is very important. I remember reading.
If it were not for my Goodreads, I don't know if I could keep it. If I'd had Goodreads in elementary school, I'd be at like 10,000.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I love Goodreads. That's like my life.
That's the only way I can keep track of everything I'm reading anymore because I read so damn fast.
And that's the thing, too, is like, I read so much that I forget what I've read sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no. And I'll pick something up and I'll start reading it and I'm like, I've read this before.
I can tell you I did not like Room.
The what?
Room
Room?
by Emma Donoghue.
Is that the one?
That was one I thought I'd not. I actually that had the opposite effect. I thought I'd love that book and I hated it.
Is that the one that they did the movie out of with the mother? You and I talked about that. I was like, I don't think I can read that.
It was too hard. I just couldn't believe how they with the whole like everything was in kids speak, and I think there was a better way to do that.
Sure.
Than what she did.
I was surprised by House of Earth and Blood, the Crescent City book, because I was so used to Sarah Moss writing about fairies and that kind of stuff, that when you get into the House of Earth and Blood, it brings in every other type of animal and mixed breed you can possibly think of, and they all live. And I kept thinking, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep up with all of this, but I ended up just get it into my brain as fast as humanly possible. And I have the second one, which I was going to start on, but now I have to read Fourth Wing first, which I am actually really enjoying Fourth Wing. And then, like, Bring Back My Bonnie by Zoe Bakurin. I wasn't sure it was going to be my thing because the way she writes is very lyrical. But if you've ever seen the show Pushing Daisies, that's how she writes. And when I figured out that that's what she was doing, it changed how I read it. And it's now one of my favorite books.
I think I need to reread. Actually, it's a play. Death of a Salesman.
Oh, yeah, that's hard.
Because I hated it the first time.
It's dry.
And it confused the hell out of me. Like, I just remember being like, why are we now in a restaurant? Like,
yeah, it's a very dry play.
Yeah, and I think now that I'm older, I'd be better to read it.
Probably.
But, like,
we always have to read that when we're in element or middle or high school, and I don't think that that's the right age for that book.
No, I don't think so either.
I read one that Jessica said that I should read. It's called Into the Drowning Deep. And it is the premise that mermaids exist. Ooh. Or sirens, rather.
Okay.
And so it starts out where you've had this disaster where the sirens attacked the first ship that went out and nobody came back alive. And so the company is getting ready to send another one out. And, like any disaster film, okay, because we didn't learn the first time, we're going to do it again.
Right.
Okay. And it ended up being a really interesting book. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I didn't hate it. And it was really interesting.
This is actually, now I knew this was the one I was thinking of. I didn't think I don't even know who this person was. I guess she's like some reality star named Stassi Schroeder.
I don't know who that
Still know who she is. But I came across her book at Ollie's called Next Level Basic, the Definitive Basic Bitch Handbook. And I was like,
I've seen that book.
And then you know what? It was hilarious. It was so funny. I'm like, I still don't know who this person is. I don't know why she's.
That's how I felt
about. It's
about.
Really funny, and I did not like it.
They made a movie out of it. Who's the French cooking? Julie and Julia.
Oh,
And it was about a writer named Julie who decided that she was going to cook every single thing in Julia Child's French Cooking, The Art of French Cooking book, right? So she decided to blog every single recipe that she made. Okay. And it ended up just being this hilarious thing. And they ended up putting it in a book, which I read, and then they made the movie. And the book and her cursing and crying and screaming her way through these recipes was the funniest thing that I have ever read in my entire life. And I remember sitting in bed reading this, sobbing with laughter at some of the reactions that she had trying to make some of these recipes.
It's cute.
And the movie was just as funny.
Nice.
So that was one that I was really surprised that I enjoyed. But yeah, we're both sitting here on our phones, looking at our Goodreads, perusing all the things that we've read, and just, it's the amount. And I am sure that I have completely screwed up my logarithm for what to recommend to I read, because I have, stuff like The Assassin's Blade and then Kingdom by W.S. Greer, which W.S. Greer is a very specific genre that I stand by. but you need to know what you're getting into when you read it because it is adult. But it's really good. But you still need to really read what you're getting into. And then I have stuff like A Little Princess. And This Book is Gay. And Star Wars Thrawn. And, so there's no regular reading in here that does it. There's no pattern.
No.
At all.
That's the way to be, though, especially
yes.
with books. I agree.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I really, really, really love how sometimes I like the emotional roller coasters that books can take you on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you want to throw the book across the room and scream and cry because why are you making these stupid decisions? Or why would you as an author do that? I did that to Elizabeth and to Dan. When I read both of their books, I was texting them, what is wrong with you?
As a human, what are you doing?
Yes. But then there's other times where you read stuff that makes you laugh. And then, you read stuff like Old Yeller and you sit there and bawl your eyes out. And just this emotional chest-racking sob because they killed a dog that was going to be dying anyway because he was sick. It just... and not many things I think can, for me, do that. Have me such just intense emotional reactions as a book and the characters that you get involved with and just,
That was, have you ever read The Street by Ann Petrie?
I don't think so.
Oh, that one.
What's that one about?
That one made me cry.
Why?
Oh, that was about, I think her name was Ludi, and she's a African-American woman in New York back in, like, the 1920s or something like that. Okay. And it's just basically about how, like, ridiculous her life is. And then she has a child she's also trying to take care of, but then she has to go through, like, all the standard trials and tribulations of being a woman in that, and, and not only in that time frame, but in a big city like that. Yeah. Because women are not supposed to be on their own. And so it's a whole thing. But I remember I read that in college, and I just remember crying for, like, an hour after I finished it because the ending just broke my heart. Like, I don't know, I thought, now I'm going to start crying. I want to think about the ending, and I'm not going to tell you what the ending is because it's so sad.
So I read The Handmaid's Tale for the first time in college, and I remember being so angry. I was in a bad mood for a week. I was pissed for a week at just, what in the hell? Mm-hmm. And then they made the TV series, and I got through the first season and it was like, nope. I can't watch this anymore. I'm in a perpetually bad, angry, hostile mood all the time at the just damned ridiculousness of this. And just, oh my God. But, but then you read, like, look what Court of Thorns and Roses has done to TikTok and just people in general. Every single person reads the first book and has the same reaction. Oh, I love this character so much. And everybody that's right is going to know because it's the so-and-so effect. And then they read book 2 and have this, what an asshole. And all the ones of us that have read it, it's that Game of Thrones. Oh, I really like that character. That's nice. Gonna give it about 5 minutes, and he's gone. And it's just, so I'm just, and I think it's so funny for the people who've read a book who then find out someone else is reading that book, and they just, are sitting there, that meme where they're just anticipating, looking at someone like, have you read it? Have you read it? Have you read it?
Yeah. Yeah, I did that with my friend during the Reckoner series, which of course is a Brandon Sanderson series. And I got him on it and then he finished it before I did.
Jessica and I do that.
Flipped and he was like, did you finish it yet? What are you doing? Yeah. And I was like, you only got like 6 more chapters. Hold on.
Yeah. Jess, I read it 5 times faster than Jess. And so if we try to read the same book, I literally have to pace myself, which is like the hardest thing for me to do. Because if it's good, I don't want to watch TV. I'm reading my book. Just leave me alone. I want to go away, And it's just, yeah, I want all of you guys that are on my shelves to be very rich and very famous so that you guys can make movies so that everybody can read your books because all of your books are so good. And I can say that because I've read the majority of them. When there's a slow period in the shop, I'll pick up one of your books and start perusing them. Because I want to be able to, and I strongly recommend books off the local author shelf. I have a whole spiel about, okay, if this is what you like, this is who you should read. If this is what you like, this is who you should read.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about books, that I've read enough that if anybody comes in here and like, okay, what kind of stuff do you like to read? Okay, here's what I recommend.
Yeah, and I've actually liked all of your recommendations so far.
Yay, good.
That I haven't liked.
Well, and I hate when I expect to like a book.
Oh.
And then you go into it with such high hopes, and then you read it or try to read it, and it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah. Well, I think I have been traumatized by such a thing before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, I refuse to read a book. If it doesn't hook me, forget it.
No. Yeah, because at that point now it's like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I also don't want to do it just to finish it.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy what I'm reading.
Yeah.
So if I'm not enjoying it, I got
50 other books that I could read.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's so funny. So has there ever been a book that you read that you will never read again because it fucked you up so bad reading it the first time? Like traumatizing level of, I will never read this again?
Underneath.
What's that one about?
Ugh. No. It's so sad. It was so good, but oh my gosh, it is so hard. It's actually a kid's book. And it's about like a hound dog. I think it's also Southern, go figure. Like I said, I'm just in that genre at all times in my life. But it's basically about a hound dog and a cat mama gives birth to a litter of kittens under their porch out back. But the guy who owns the house hates cats. And so the dog is essentially protecting the cats. But
yeah, I don't want to know.
All right, and we're done. It's so trust
that's
me.
one of those bingey movies that I don't think that I can watch.
I won't read it ever again. I very rarely will. I can't.
For me, it was The Feed, and it jacked my brain up so bad and just freaked me out because it's not so much a dystopian, but it's a future-based book about how technology has gone far enough that the humanity, puts chips in the back of their neck and they can surf the internet and online shop and book vacations and chat with their friends and watch movies and, everything that we can do now, on our phones, except it's on a chip in the back of your head, right? Okay, to high school, college age person, sure, fine. Why not? Technology is heading that way until you find out that a small percentage of the population that gets this chip, it corrodes their brain and they go slowly insane and literally their brain just melts down and they die.
Oh, it sounds believable though.
Horrible and painful and just catastrophic. And so the main character, he is popular and they all have chips and they're all the cool kids. And he meets this girl who doesn't have one. And he finally convinces her to get the chip in her head because she was afraid of, and what happens? It corrupts and it kills her and his just meltdown about her death. And I just remember going, oh my God.
That's what you get. You can't be forcing people to do things.
No. And it just creeped me out so bad because while he's devastated about what's happening, the internet chip in his head is it's all about consumerism and, and the government, of course, watches the chip, right? Don't be sad. You just bought this and that and the other. Let's show you more things to buy to make you feel better. And it's like, it's a person. Oh God!
Yeah, it just sounds pretty realistic. That's probably why it's traumatizing.
It just freaks me out because it's one of those. And I talked about this with Anne too. The whole concept of technology and how we as humans do not learn our lesson. Terminator, Battlestar Galactica, any computer movie where they or any movie where they dig something up and it almost brings an end to humanity, there's a whole movie franchise where it says none of that's a good idea.
Yeah, right.
Stop bringing about the end of humanity with this crap.
I've seen iRobot. I've read iRobot.
I mean, right?
We don't need to do that. Yep.
No, put it back. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Anytime that we dug up a skeleton. No.
No.
Put it back. We found a new species of dinosaur that we're going to take the DNA. No, you're not. Leave it alone. No. No. Just no. Well, we're almost out of time. And that happens all the time because I love you guys and we always have the best conversation. Every single one of you guys. It's the most fun. But we are out of time and I want to thank you so much for coming by and chatting with us about movies and books.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I love sitting down with you guys and getting to talk to you. It's really, really fun. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Spine Bookcast, Chronicles of a Bookshop. And don't forget to grab Nina's book, Everybody Cheats by Nina Mancuso. It is excellent, and you can get it at the Spine Bookshop online on our online website. And thank you, and happy reading from the Spine Bookshop. Y'all have a great day.